with Tracy in LA. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my podcast, Dance Journey. Today we have a really exciting guest, Angel Strittmater.
Woo! You got it right.
I know, I said it right. Also known as Angel Stritt on social media. I took Angel's class yesterday. We were supposed to take a class this morning and then do the podcast after it, but it got canceled. But it worked out.
Very sad.
It was sad.
I mean, we still got to dance together, which is the most important part.
Yeah, we got to dance together yesterday, which I'm really glad that worked out because Angel was subbing and I raced there from my ballet class because I was like, whenever Angel's subbing, I'm like, oh, can I go? I have to try to make it because I love it so much. She subs for contemporary and jazz, mostly contemporary and jazz.
Yeah, just contemporary and jazz.
Okay.
I don't really step outside of that realm. Maybe like a contemporary jazz, like a cute little hybrid, but mainly contemporary or jazz.
Or jazz.
Just one of the two.
I love how you're like contemporary or jazz or contemporary jazz.
Yeah.
Which is a different thing.
I know, which is like weird that it's a different thing, but it very nichely is a different thing.
It is a different thing, for sure. And usually at Millennium, right?
Yeah, usually at Millennium. I don't really teach at other professional studios a lot, just because I'm still like doing my other stuff, trying to dance, you know?
Yeah, and we're gonna hear more about that.
Yeah.
So first I want to tell you guys how I met Angel, because it's kind of a funny story. I wasn't on social media for 10 years. I don't know if you knew that.
What?
But that's another podcast episode. But basically, I only got back on social media a year ago. And 10 years ago, I was into it, but it was more like Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
So I got into it a year ago, and literally I had never posted a story. And I also, when I saw people's stories where they had like 1 million, I was like, how do people post all these stories? Like, that is crazy.
You already knew. You were off social media for 10 years, but you're like, I already know this is weird. This is a lot.
Now I'm like, now I post like 10,000 stories.
Honestly,
but I had never posted a story. I didn't really know how. But I was starting to like get into Instagram, and I was looking at people's stories, and a dance teacher actually posted one of your funny videos from TikTok, and it was the one, I think you have multiple of this, but it was one where it was like the teacher that doesn't like do counts or something that. And it made me laugh so hard. And I was like, I have to post this to my story. But I don't really know that much about Instagram. I really was probably on it for like a week. And I was just like, how do I thought I could grab it off her story and put it on my story. And that wasn't working. And I didn't know about screen recording. And I was like, I have to get this on my story. I like was so determined.
I love that.
And I hadn't really gone on TikTok, but I realized it was from TikTok. Then I went on TikTok. I like found you. I found it. I think I like downloaded it and then uploaded it to my story. And I was like, I did it. It took me like an hour.
Oh my gosh. Wait, I love the dedication. Thank you for supporting my TikTok. Also, I feel like that's so much learning in one period. Like, I feel like I have to learn so many new things about my phone and social media. That is so much to learn after 10 years. That's crazy to me.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. So I posted that. A lot of people thought it was really funny or like liked it. And I was like, oh my gosh, it is so funny. And then I just started like, I think after that, I think I did sort of get on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok much, but I started like watching your stuff more. And then I realized how to post things like a little faster. And then I think one time I posted like, this girl is like the only reason I'm on TikTok.
Oh my gosh.
Because I never went on TikTok, but your stuff was so funny. And
I'm honored.
I died. And like, she has all these videos, if you haven't seen them, that are like, her imitating her kids or being like, Miss Angel, like asking questions, and it's so funny. Like, and I love your one that's about like saying thank you after a master class. Like,
oh my gosh,
what should I say? Because I had just recently gone to like a couple of master classes, and there were like these long lines. And okay, I shouldn't say this out loud, but I literally like, I did leave a master class without saying anything to the teacher because I was just like, okay, I just took class and I just left.
Yeah, it honestly happens.
But
sometimes I get late.
There was like a line of people, but I have only been taking dance for like 5 years. So I don't really know like all of the etiquette for everything. And so seeing that was so funny because I was like, oh, I did see like a line of people, and it is interesting. So also because I'm learning a lot about the dance industry still. So just like stuff you're saying is like, because I've been processing it. And so the stuff you're saying is like so funny to me. So I just love it. So that's kind of how I discovered Angel. And then I didn't really know that she taught anywhere, or like I just didn't know much about like your dance life necessarily. And I don't even think I knew you were in LA. I wasn't sure. But you yeah, I just saw, like, I think I started following you on Instagram, and then I saw that you were subbing a class at Millennium, and I was like, oh, and I had just quit my job. So I quit my job last October, and I had just quit
Oh.
it to, like, figure out what I want to do with my life, basically.
Yeah.
And I was finally able to take, like, dance classes during the day. I think it was a weekend anyways, but
Because I was gonna say, I think that was the time period when I was subbing like a lot on the weekends. Like there was
yeah.
a couple months where I was like always subbing on like Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
it was a weekend, but if I'm remembering correctly, I think it was like the first week I didn't have work.
Yeah.
So I was also taking a lot of exciting classes during the day. And then
Oh.
all of a sudden, like, I saw that you were subbing, and I was like, oh my gosh, my favorite social media dancer comedian is subbing.
I love that it wasn't like you're like, oh wow, this is like a super cool combo. You're like, wow, she's like a great dance comedian. I have to go take her class. I'm still very flattered. Thank you for taking my class. That's just so funny that you're like, wait, I know her. Like I have to go take her class.
It was like my favorite dancer comedian. I was like, is that a category?
I guess it is now.
There
I'm
is
honored.
there is, I don't know if you know, I think her name is Caroline Diamond.
Oh yeah.
She teaches at Movement Lifestyle.
Uh-huh.
She's a comedian and a
Yeah.
dancer. So you guys might be the only ones in that cat. I mean, you're not like a comedian, like a traveling
I know.
comedian.
I'm a
but
wannabe comedian. I'm a social media
No.
comedian. It's different. You
It's
know what I
not
mean?
like I wouldn't call that a wannabe comedian. I would just call it a different like category of comedian.
different brand.
But yeah, so I was so excited. I think I don't remember if I saw the combo or not. I was just like, oh, I'm so excited to take this. So yeah, I was scared because like again, I'm like a newer dancer, so I didn't even know if I was gonna be able to keep up. I was like, should I really go to this? I'm not gonna be able to do it. Like, especially Millennium, most of the classes are pretty advanced, and
Yeah.
like I do take a little bit of class there, but I often take classes with the word beginner at the title. So
Mm.
I was just like, okay, I just was like, I'm probably gonna do terrible, but I don't care. I'm just gonna be brave and like just go.
Yeah.
And just because it'll be such a cool experience. And so I was so happy that like I was able to even like mostly keep up with it.
You
and
kept
I
up
felt
really well. I feel like I remember that class, and I feel like you did a really, really good job keeping up with the class. I didn't know that you were like a more beginner level dancer.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, it was definitely really hard for me, but I felt like you were so nice, and like
Aw.
I felt really like it was easy for me to ask questions, which like in
Yeah.
a new class with a new teacher, I don't always ask questions. I try to like read the vibe of the room and
Mhm.
everything. But like you seemed really approachable, and it was like easy to ask you some questions and stuff, and like you explained things really well, and choreography was so fun. And like I don't remember the song now, but I remember loving it and being like, oh, I love the song we danced to. That was so fun. Like
That makes me so happy.
Yeah,
I
I
always just
really
want it to
liked
be
it.
fun, and I want people
Yeah.
to like, even if they're at a different level, if that makes sense. Like if they're not like, oh, I'm like pursuing this like professionally. Like some people just come to my class and they're like, oh, I just want to dance. Or like
Yeah.
some people are at the beginnings of their career and they're like, oh, I'm just trying to like get to the next echelon of my
Yeah.
dance career. I like don't want them to be intimidated. Like yes, I want people to like be pushed and I want them to be their best, but I don't want them to be like scared in class. If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
And I
So-
also love how, because I had been watching some of your dances, now I'm like remembering. And so I loved how you started the class with like, don't worry guys, this isn't acro with Angel.
Oh yeah.
Because you were like, sometimes there's some acrobatic stuff, but like if that's not your thing or if you're not ready for that, we can modify, you can do something else. It was just really, it made the class really welcoming because I
Aw.
actually love acrobatic style. Like
Yeah.
I love the stuff that you put in your dances like that, and I take gymnastics, so like that's something I want to get better at, but
Yeah.
I'm very much at the beginner level of it. So some teachers that do more of that stuff, I am intimidated to take their class because
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, I would like to learn how to do that, but I don't know if that class is for me because am I gonna just look crazy or am I gonna get hurt or like, you know?
Well,
and
and
so
getting hurt is the biggest thing too.
Yeah.
And like, I honestly have a lot of my friends who have been dancing for years who are professional dancers, and they'll tell me, they're like, oh, I don't want to take your class because it's too hard. And I'm like, okay, but like, I don't care. Like, you can modify it. You can do a
Yeah.
different option. Because, and I always say that to people because I'm like, yes, I put it in there because I like the athleticism, but I also have an understanding, like, what if somebody has an injury? What if
Yeah.
somebody has like something going on where it's like they just have a mental block, or like safety wise, what if they physically like can't do this on a hard floor? You know what I mean? Because it's like
Yeah.
a very slippery like wood surface. It's not like it's like
Yeah.
a gymnastics mat or anything like that. So I try to be very understanding of that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And that's a really good point that it's not a gymnastics mat because
Yeah.
I have taken a class with a teacher before. Well, it was kind of a weird situation that I won't get into, but she was having us do a lot of new acrobatic moves that were new to a lot of us in the room,
Mhm.
acrobatic stuff that was I would say it was pretty intense, maybe even more intense than some of the stuff you do,
Yeah.
but like on a hard floor, and she was really kind of pushing us to really try these extreme things in sort of
Yeah.
a risky way. And I was like, I do want to push myself, but I'd rather like start on a mat or like I don't want to risk getting injured and now I can't dance for the rest of my life or something, because
Yeah.
of this one move I was trying to get like in an unsafe environment. So yeah, I love that you do that. That made it feel, yeah, you just really set up the class to feel so welcoming, and then it's like really fun. And ever since then, like every time you're teaching, I always like try to go. I can't always make it, but like I
Aw.
have to not think about it if I can't make it, because I'm like, I love going. And the other thing, okay, we're not going to talk about your class the entire episode, but like, like I probably could, but like your choreography is like it's like very unique. Like I feel like, but this is what I like about it. It's the moves. Like when I watch you dance your moves, I'm like, dang, I love that choreography. It's so fun. You put so much emotion in it, and you do it so clean, and like it's so good. And I love the athleticism, like you were saying. And then I do it and I like watch it and I'm like, I'm like, well, it doesn't look the same, but I love the challenge. Like, it's just moves that I'm not like used to, or like I just really I'm like, oh, what is that thing? But I love coming because it just pushes me, and I'm like, and every time I'm like, okay, those moves look kind of weird the way I was doing them, but like this part looks good, and I see ways that I'm growing. Like I'm growing with picking up your choreography, even though it's pretty complicated for me, and then like some of the moves, like I'm like, oh, it's kind of looking better on me now. Like, so I feel like I'm growing at it. I wish you just had a regular like class I could come to.
Me too.
Because I know that I would like really grow, but it's like I always just have to like find it. So hopefully we'll pray for that for you if you want that. But
Yeah.
anyways, so love your class. So that's kind of how I got to know you, is like through your class. And that first day I like got a picture with you and I like posted it all over.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Because I feel like I just become like friends with you through this process, because we would always see each other. I know it's even like some other classes too, or at studios. So I forgot that that's how we met.
Yeah.
That seems like ages ago. That was probably like, what, 6 months ago or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
That's crazy.
So yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun, I guess.
It really does fly. But yeah, there's quite a few things I want to talk about with you, because I'm so excited about your dance journey. I think it just seems really amazing. Something else, if you don't watch Angel's or look at Angel's Instagram, we were just talking about this before we started recording, but she often kind of like writes little blurbs underneath her dance posts that are kind of like, this is what I like about you, is like you're very funny, and you can post all these really comedic dance things, but then you also post like serious stuff, and you also share about your life and like, oh, what it took me to get here, or what I'm doing right now, or how many years I've been here, like this is where I'm at. And I really like that mix of like vulnerability and also being funny, and like keeping light like life, but like keeping life light, but then also getting deep too. It's like a really nice combination, because some people can use humor to cover like what they're really going through or what's happening.
Yeah.
I think of a good mix of just like, no, we can have joy and have fun, but also like there's some real stuff going on too,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's important, because I think I've definitely used like humor to cover up stuff for sure.
Well, yeah, we all do.
I think that's definitely how I like got into like making different like TikTok videos and things like that. Is I was kind of going through like a tough time in my life where like my grandma was like passing and things like that. So like I used a lot of humor to like go through it.
Okay.
But I've also had to work on a lot in my life of just like learning how to deal with my emotions and how to like sort of manage them and let them be felt, you know what I mean? Not just try to like cover them up or like stack other emotions on top of them.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And actually, speaking of that, so I know we're still kind of talking about your class, but to go into that a little bit, I did want to talk about the class I just took with you yesterday, which was contemporary, and the song that you chose was California by Chappelle Roan. Am I saying that right?
Chapel Roan.
Chapel Roan.
I
Wow.
know. I know. It does look like Chappelle.
It looks like Chappelle.
It does look like Chappelle.
Chapel Roan. Should have looked that up first. But I had never heard that song before, but I like absolutely loved it, and I can relate to it a lot, and I imagine you can relate to it because you chose it.
Yeah.
So do you want to share a little bit about like what the song kind of sings about? What it talks about?
Absolutely. I looked up like why she wrote it too, just because I'm kind of like nerdy like that, and I love like seeing the artist standpoint behind it, just because obviously they wrote it for a reason, and I feel it's certain things, but like you never necessarily know what they were writing about.
Yeah.
So she was writing this at a time, I think it was during COVID, she was saying, and she just got dropped by her record label. Ooh. And it was like she had moved out to California, and her whole thing is that she's from the Midwest. And as you said earlier, I'm from Minnesota, so I always make jokes where I'm like, Midwest, like, woo! Like, I feel like I'm like kind of the stereotypical girl from the Midwest who like moves out to California to pursue her dreams. And so this whole song is essentially about Chapel moving during COVID and then getting dropped by her record label, because obviously it's not like people are making music. There weren't a lot of shows, things like that. And how she kind of was like, oh, like, I feel like I let everybody down and I'm like not making them proud, and it's like I like lost out on this huge opportunity, and it's like I've been chasing my dream for like a while, and if it hasn't happened yet, like maybe I should just give up. That's kind of the context of like her story.
Yeah. And then and you moved out from Minnesota to pursue your dance dreams.
Yeah.
And I also moved to LA to pursue my acting dreams initially, which was a long time ago. But I was just thinking, so I wrote these lyrics that I can't see. But she sings like, because I was never told that I wasn't going to get the things I want the most. And people always say if it hasn't happened yet, then maybe you should go. Thought I'd be cool in California. I'd make you proud. To think I almost had it going, but I let you down. But I just, oh my gosh. I literally was like reading it. I'm like, I'm going to cry reading these
I like cried when I first heard that song, honestly. I'm obsessed with her album, by the way. Go listen to it.
I need to listen to the whole thing.
Oh my gosh. Well, you've listened to one of them because I choreographed to Hot to Go.
Oh, that was her too.
That's also her.
Okay.
So what I love about her is kind of what you said about me. I'm just kidding.
No, yeah, but like it's a different, she can go both.
Yeah, she has so much range where she's like so campy and stuff, where like it's very like girly, poppy, kind of like in your face, obnoxious. But then she has these like really deep lyrics, and I really love clever lyrics, you know what I mean? Because I feel like that's what I connect to, because as dancers you don't always get to speak necessarily. You're usually just moving, you know what I mean, which is great, but it's hard to express things with movement sometimes. Like you do express them, but it's nice if you have the lyrics that match it. But those lyrics are just absolutely heartbreaking, because I feel like every dancer at a certain point, or entertainer of sorts, like maybe you're a singer, maybe you're an artist, maybe you're an actor, actress, whatever, but like you come out to LA, if you're coming especially from someplace that's not LA, and you're out here and you're caught up in all the craziness, and then you hit a moment where you're like, oh my gosh, what if I never make it? You know what I mean? And it's like, it's really sad, but it's kind of facing that reality, because you're growing up, and hopefully if you came from like a supportive family or a supportive like friend group, whatever, then you had people in your life telling you like, hey, you're gonna make it, like it's gonna be great, like I'm so excited for you. You have all these cheerleaders, but it's almost facing that reality of like, this is so much harder than I thought it was gonna be, and it might not happen. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's really gut wrenching. You know what I mean? Even like no matter how many successes you have, like you still have so many of those moments.
Yeah, totally. And I really relate to that when I first moved out here, and things were not going, I mean, things were exciting, but they weren't going quickly. And there was a point when I was out here for like, I don't remember how many years I was out here, but then I ended up moving. So I'm from Illinois, and I ended up moving back to the Midwest. I moved to Indiana actually, but I felt like I didn't accomplish what I came out here to do. Like little things happen here and there and stuff, and I learned a lot, but I was just like, it made me sad. I was like, I did also have lots of cheerleaders and people like excited for me, and then it was just like, oh, it didn't like work. And so those lyrics, like, because I was never told that I wasn't gonna get the things I want the most. That's so like real to me, but at the same time now, because I'm older and it's been a long time, I was thinking about that lyric and thinking, as real as that lyric is, like, first of all, who's ever singing that or whoever's relating to that is still alive.
Yeah.
So actually, you don't know that you're not going to get the thing you want the most.
Exactly.
So I was thinking that. Then I was also thinking about how our desires change. Because I don't have any desire to be an actress anymore. Not to say if somebody like randomly wanted to cast me in something and pay me a bunch of money that
you wouldn't take it. But you have other opportunities that you're looking for.
Yeah, and that's not something that I really wanted anymore. So that's another way to think about it, because we're always like evolving, like the way what we're wanting and what we're going after. And also I look at success a little differently now than I did when I first moved here, because it was kind of about like achieving the goal. And now I'm much more, as my podcast title states, I'm much more into the journey.
Absolutely.
And into like, what are you learning along the way? Who are you helping? Who are you serving?
Yes.
Maybe you're here to encourage people.
Yeah.
What if my whole role to come to LA was to encourage artists?
Wait, I really love that.
And wasn't to like be a big artist.
I love
that. And that's not bad.
No.
That can actually be better.
And that's the thing that I've been realizing. And kind of going back to what you were talking about earlier with like how I put like little blurbs in my Instagram. the caption that I associated with the California dance post for the combo that I just did
Yeah.
yesterday, I was talking about how as I get older, I realize that expectation is like the greatest source of disappointment.
Yeah.
And that's like really sad, but it's really true because anything that I've been disappointed about, it was because I had a certain expectation for what it should be, right? Like, oh, I should like book a tour in X amount of time, or oh, by the time I hit like this age, I should have like XYZ. You know what I mean? But it's not about that. It's about the journey. And like you said, like, even reflecting on my own dance journey and like when I first moved to LA, I definitely have changed my goals so many times since like I first moved here. Like I could look back at like a little journal that I wrote down like, oh, like these are my dreams and my goals for like, what was it, like 2021 or something like that. And I'm like, oh, like this is where I want to be and like this is who I want to work with. And I look back at that and I'm like, oh, I don't really have those same goals anymore. I don't want that. And it's not a bad
See,
thing, but
yeah.
it's just, it's ever evolving.
So speaking of that, let's talk about like a little bit about like what it was like growing up doing dance in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And then kind of what ended up getting you to first decide to move to LA.
Yeah, absolutely. So oh my gosh, I was very much a comp kid growing up. I started dancing at the age of 4, and I was actually in gymnastics first, but my mom put me in competition dance. Sorry, not competition dance, just like a rec ballet class, like, teeny tots, like tap, ballet, like you're spinning around type of thing. And she put me in that because my neighbor kept on breaking her arm in gymnastics. So she was like, I don't want her in gymnastics. Let's put her in dance. Like, let's just switch it out super quick. It's a lot safer, which is funny because I do a lot of acro and gymnastics now. But I started competing at the age of 6. So I was doing competition dance at the age of 6. But it was never necessarily like I was one of those like crazy dance mom kids or like one of those stereotypical comp kids where I was like winning everything. I honestly like wasn't that good for a while. I was a competition kid and I really loved it. And Minnesota is like very competition dance. Like
really?
Yes. There's so many competition dance studios all around. It's very technical. Yeah. So it's like a lot of ballet, jazz, lyrical. We don't have as great of hip hop training, unfortunately. It's not a bad thing. It's just like we don't have access to it, if that makes sense. Like, not as many people who specialize in hip-hop stay in Minnesota because they leave to Los Angeles or New York or Atlanta or wherever they're going. But it was really interesting. I kind of didn't start loving dance the way that I love it now until I got to be, like, 12, because I've always been really competitive, but I think I realized how much value dance added to my life. When I kind of got older and I saw that my sister was getting better than me at dance. So I was like...
Is your sister older or younger?
She's younger. So she started getting like really good at dance. I was like, dang, I gotta set this up.
Oh wait, I've seen her. I forgot that I met her.
I think
I didn't like meet her personally, but she came to your class when I was there.
Yeah.
And then I think I started following her on Instagram because you like
of course. I think
hers.
You're for sure gonna meet her at some point. She's gonna move here in October because she just graduated, but my brother's getting married later this year. Yeah, so she'll move here after.
Okay. But you felt like she was getting better than you.
Oh yeah, no, she was getting better than me. She was like way better than me. And I'm just really competitive. So I'd always been competitive. But once my sister started getting good, like she was getting a solo and I didn't have a solo and she was on all these specialty groups. And like if you're a comp kid, that's a big deal. Like you want to be on the A teams, you want to have all these specialty groups. So I started taking it really seriously then. And Minnesota's big on like dance teams. So it's a lot of like turning and jumping, and I did like kick line and stuff. So I did studio dance and dance team at the same time, which is like a lot. Then I went to college, and I initially wasn't a dance major.
Did you go to college in Minnesota?
Yes, I went to the University of Minnesota, and I was initially going to go to school for nursing, but I just like really had a gut feeling that I didn't want to do that. Like, not because I wasn't good at it, not because I wasn't smart enough. I got into all these nursing schools except for one, but I still got into the school, and I ended up going there because I just had like, I can't describe it. I just had a gut feeling that I'm like, I'm supposed to be here. You know what I mean? So I went to the University of Minnesota, and after one semester, I was still doing great in school. Nothing was wrong. I had friends. I like loved it, but I just realized that I was missing dance. And I was still dancing at that time. But I was like, I need more. So I started auditioning for the dance major, and I got in. And I started doing that. And then I also auditioned for the University of Minnesota dance team, which is like... college dance team is crazy.
Oh yeah, they're really good.
They're really good. They're really, really good. It was really cutthroat, in a good way. You know what I mean? Like where I was like rehearsing probably 2 to 3 times a week, if not more, as we got closer to national season. But then I was dancing. Oh my God, like I would have like 8 a.m. ballet class, and I'd have like a composition class, and I'd have a modern class, and I would go straight to weightlifting, and then I would go straight to dance team practice.
Wow.
So I was just constantly dancing. I don't think that my body has ever been through so much pain and so much so much exercise. I was the most fit that I've ever been in my life, and probably to a fault. You know what I mean? But I was
And you
also
dropped the nursing major when you did that, or were you still trying to do that?
I was majoring in physiology and I switched it to dance. But then
Okay.
I told my dad, because he always told me, he's very supportive now. But both my parents work in healthcare, and so they
Okay.
wanted me to get like a job in healthcare or like a stable job. Like my brother's an engineer, you know what I mean? So they had never had an artist kind of like pass through the family. So I told him that I was gonna take the prerequisites for a master's in nursing. So while I was dancing, I was also taking all of these like not random, but kind of random like science credits to
Okay.
help prepare me if I was gonna go to grad school
Okay.
later. I don't think I'm gonna go to grad school now, but if I wanted to, I could. I have that option, and it was just too much for me. I was dancing too much. I was studying too much. It was a huge toll on my mental health. I think
Yeah.
that my anxiety was like the worst it has ever been. It started to kind of like seep into the rest of my life. Like I had an Apple Watch at the time, and I think that every single day, like every single hour, it was like going off telling me that I needed to like let my heart rate come down. And I would like
Whoa.
just be crying randomly,
Oh,
things
man.
like that. So it wasn't a great fit. So I stopped doing dance team, and then I started doing a contemporary company that was in Minneapolis. And that was really fun. But I kind of just realized at a certain point that I was like, wow, there's no other opportunities other than professional cheerleading in Minnesota or teaching.
Okay.
And I was already teaching a lot. I was teaching a lot so I could save up money, but I really wanted to move out to LA, and I wanted to audition for So You Think You Can Dance and do things like that. So I actually auditioned for it,
Oh,
but
cool.
then COVID happened.
Oh.
So everything shut down, and I kind of just like worked in Minnesota until COVID started to lift. It still wasn't fully lifted, but September of 2021, that's when I sort of made my way over to Los Angeles. And up until then, I was mainly training in contemporary, I was training in jazz, modern. I trained in African in college, and I took like some hip hop classes, but it is nothing compared to the level that is out here. So I had a very like technical background, very balletic. I had a lot of drill team skill set, so it was a lot of cleanliness, it was a lot of matching others, and not a lot of individuality on my part, if that makes sense.
Okay. And
Yeah.
did you, because you got out of gymnastics when you were little, but where did you end up learning like all your acrobatic skills? Was it through dance, or did you end up taking like gymnastics again at some point?
A lot of it was through dance, and it's funny because I make a lot of videos about this, but it was me and my friends just like messing around like in the backyard.
That's funny. That's
So
funny.
we would go to like open gym together all the time. I'm not to like toot my own horn, but I am very naturally athletic.
Yeah.
So I pick up sports pretty easily. Like I could do most sports and I would probably like be okay. Like I played soccer until I was in 7th grade.
Okay.
But I would just like start trying different gymnastics things.
Okay.
And so we would have like an acro class, and we would just be learning how to do like basic things. And then from there I would go home and take those basic moves and try to like mess around. And especially during COVID, I had nothing else to do. I like ordered a gymnastics mat online.
Oh my
I
gosh.
ordered a tumble track, and this is at the age of, oh my God, it was probably 20.
Wow.
So I'm 20 years old in my parents' basement, just like flipping around, tumbling in the backyard in the Midwest because I had nothing better to do.
That's
What else
amazing.
was I going to do?
I love that. I am not surprised that you took a basic move and then tried to make it more crazy, because that's what's in your combos.
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, it's not like that crazy, but it's like, I'm like, what is this move we're doing? But it's really cool.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's like you're kind of like a gymnastics inventor a little bit. It's like,
Yeah, it's fun. And I've also taken from a lot of really athletic contemporary teachers too.
Okay.
Like, especially when I moved here, I took a lot from Sam Nelson
Yeah.
and Sabrina Phillips, and I would
Yeah.
take from Zoe Tatopoulos and Erica Klein too.
Mhm.
But also just in Minnesota, you just learn a lot of tricks. I feel like we were very tricky as a state and
Okay.
like very technical. So I learned a lot of that athleticism anyways. So I had that skill set within my body
Yeah.
to kind of adapt things.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Mhm.
Okay, so when you finally moved to LA, how you came with a friend, right?
Yeah,
So I read that on your Instagram.
Yeah,
but-
my roommate Taylor, I met her in college, and we did a club dance team my first year of college together. So we had met, and then she was friends with my sister, and they were on the same club dance team. And when I was moving out to LA, I overheard that she was going to move out to LA. So I basically texted her and like was like, okay, we're going to be roommates, things like that. And I was like, we're going
Perfect.
to move out by September. And she does not work in dance, but she works in PR. So
Okay.
she's a dancer, she understands dance, and she dances for fun, but it's not necessarily like she moved out here for dance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys,
Mhm.
that's great that you just like automatically had someone to move out here with.
Yeah, I
And
pretty
had
much
you-
like made her.
Okay. And had you been here before?
I had, yeah.
Okay.
So I visited not too many times. I visited in the summer of 2019 a couple times because I came out here with my family and I took some classes and I remember taking them at Millennium and I was like literally like pooping my pants. Like it was so scary. It was so intense. I remember I wasn't very good at picking up choreography. So that was an experience. And then I was also here prior to that because I came for like an intensive. I did Royal Flux's intensive when I was younger.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was really fun. That was also pooping my pants. It was like the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, they're really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, my body was in a lot of pain, but it was really cool. Like I learned so much from that. And then I think I came out one more time with my dad to look at apartments and things like that before I actually moved.
Okay. So when you first moved, did you have anything lined up for money, or were you just like, did you just have like some savings and you're just like, here I am? Like how did it get going for you?
Because I had kind of had the seed of moving to LA planted in me like a while ago. So when I had first graduated high school, one of my good friends, Kat Chang, she would teach at our studio and she's from Minnesota too. So I like grew up dancing with her a little bit before she switched studios. And so she had come back and she was dancing at the studio teaching us like kind of guest choreography stuff. And I remember I was so lost and I was like, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to like continue to dance? I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And she was kind of the first person to be like, there's so much dance out there. Like you should move to California, things like that. Cause she was living in California and she still is and is very successful. So that was kind of the first thing that got the gears turning, if that makes sense. So then throughout college, I was kind of always planning secretly, despite my parents' knowledge and anticipating on moving to LA. So once I hit, I want to say it was my junior year of college, I decided that I was going to live at home because I lived probably like 45 minutes away from my college and I was going to commute to school. And this was before COVID hit. And eventually with COVID, everybody was just living at home anyways. Yeah. So didn't matter, unfortunately, for my senior year. So I decided that I was going to live at home so I wouldn't pay for an apartment. I began working then because it was COVID and I would probably take my classes in the morning and then I would go teach from like 12 to 9 p.m. at like studios and I would save up as much money as I could because kids weren't in school, so their parents are like, what are we supposed to do with them? So I would have like Zoom privates with them, or at a certain point we had privates with them in masks and things like that. So I was saving up money probably for the first like year before I moved to LA, if that makes sense. Yeah, and I'd like kind of budgeted it out where I was like, okay, I have like X amount of months before I need to like get a job, and I ended up getting a job before that because I'm just such a busybody and if I don't have something to do I'm going to be so bored, but it was mainly me saving up a lot of money.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when you first got here, what was your, or you kind of talked a little bit about how you had certain goals when you first got here and now they're different. Like what was your like plan, kind of what was your goals when you first got here, and also what was your plan to get them? Were you like, I'm going to take a bunch of classes, or I definitely want to meet these teachers or choreographers or dancers, or I'm gonna just find auditions? Like what was your like plan, I guess?
I think when I first got here, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. If I'm being so honest, I was like, no idea what I'm doing.
Most people.
Yeah, like most people, but I was like so confident in the fact that I had no idea what I was doing. So I hit up like probably the two people that I knew in LA, like, because I knew of people, you know what I mean? And you end up getting here and you know so many more people than you think you do. Yeah. But I sat down with them for coffee and I kind of asked them about their experiences and interviewed them, like a little bit of an informational interview. You do this a lot in like different, I don't know, like industries, but I feel like we don't do it enough in dance. Yeah. So I sat down actually with Kat and I was kind of like, what should I be doing? Like, how did you start your journey? Just asking her how she started hers. And she kind of like sat me down and was like, okay, like you gotta go take classes and things like that. So I honestly just started off by taking a bunch of classes. And one of the only studios that was open, because again, this was COVID, was Millennium. Yeah. So I was constantly taking classes at Millennium and I eventually kind of would see the people that I liked and I got to know more choreographers, and I just did a lot of research on the people that I wanted to work with and what jobs they were working with and who they were training with and who they were training. And I would kind of just like go down the line and be like, okay, like I really like this person's style and that style is similar to this person's style, so I'm going to go take their class. I also had friends who, I was, again, not good at hip hop. I had friends who were amazing at hip hop and they would drag me to these hip hop classes, and that was probably the best thing for me because I was so humbled so quickly. I think I cried after like every single hip hop class when I first moved here. Not in a bad way, but just because I was like, wow, this is really hard. Yeah. So to go back to your question about what my dance goals were, I would say initially it was very technical. I wanted to work probably with like Radio City Rockettes, like doing ensemble, things like that. I really wanted to work with Marguerite Derricks, and I would still love to do any of these things. If they want to hire me, I would absolutely love to do that. And I still love their classes, but that was like my main goal. It was very technical jobs, if that makes sense. Where I was like, okay, I want to be one of those people who tours with like Derek Hough, you know, because he has his own tour. I want to do just any job where it was like very technical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got here, took a bunch of classes, and sorry, you said you did you did have a job when you first got here, or you didn't?
I didn't for a while.
Okay.
I didn't get a job until I started teaching at the studio that I teach at in like January of that year. So it was probably like 3 months, and I didn't have a job, and then I got that job, and then eventually, because I was getting certified as a personal trainer during that time, eventually I started working at a gym. So,
okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so over that process, like what was the first like dance opportunity or almost opportunity or job? Like what's kind of the first thing besides, I guess, teaching at the dance studio was good, but you also taught at dance studios a bunch where you came from too, so it probably wasn't like that much different. But what was kind of the first like LA opportunity or gig or something that came up after you got here?
Yeah, because I got on casting networks, and if you're on casting networks, there's so many random opportunities and gigs. So I just started applying to like everything. You know what I mean? Anything dance. Like it would be the lowest paying gig, and I was like, I don't even care. Like because I'm not worried about the money. I'm like, I just need opportunities.
Right.
Like I just need to like, not that you shouldn't worry about the money, but like I was at a place where I'm like, I just like need to be on a set. I don't have that experience, you know what I mean? Or I have minimal experience, because the sets in Minnesota are very different from the sets in Los Angeles. So I think my first job in Los Angeles was probably it was a music video, and it was for Lizzie McAlpine, actually. Okay. And it was her EP, and I wasn't really dancing. I was an extra, which is so funny because I don't act or anything like that. I guess I act on TikTok, but that was my first job ever, and you can see me in the music video.
Oh, nice.
It's for one of hers, and I'm wearing like, it's pretty much the same color as this sweatshirt that I have on, actually, and it's like a blue sweater. But then my first dance job ever, I was doing ballet, and it was for, I think it was cinema makeup school, and they wanted to use prosthetics to make a bird beak on my face. So they painted me up. Yeah, I have like photos of this. I don't think I ever posted this. I'll probably post this like on my 3-year anniversary. Like, 'cause I'm like, it's funny. But they literally put a fake bird beak on my face, and then they like put all this makeup on, and I was supposed to be like some sort of like Swan Lake type of bird thing, and I was just doing ballet improv. And I've never done ballet improv before.
But what was the company it was for?
Cinema Makeup School. It's like a makeup school in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. So it was like an advertisement for that?
Yeah. Okay. Because they do different videos and advertisements to kind of showcase their student skills and highlight the school. So it's kind of like how college campuses will be like, look at how smart our students are. Like we have all of these incredibly talented and successful people. It's the same thing, except for, since obviously it's such a visual art, you want to showcase the makeup. So they'd have like a student or a previous alumni who was very successful come in and like do the makeup.
Wow. That's funny. Yeah, you should definitely post that.
That was like the craziest thing ever. And they're like, oh, have you worked a lot? I'm like, yeah, I've worked a ton. This is just a normal day in the life for me. And I'm like, I've never done this before. I'm like, on a set, I think the first makeup they did too, they had to make me look like a drug addict or something like that. So like giving me a black eye and like putting like blood on my face. And then after I have a bird beak, I'm like, this is an interesting first job.
Why? Oh, I guess because they're advertising that they could do makeup for that.
Yeah. So
I was like, why did they want you to look like a drug
It was like
addict?
some sort of like transformation where it's like she is like in AA or something like that, and then she becomes this beautiful bird, and it was crazy. And I was also the only dancer on that.
Wow.
So it was crazy to me.
That is so crazy. That's really funny. I feel like when I used to do acting in the beginning, I was often made to look like a drug addict or a smoker or something. I don't like, that's like the furthest thing from like who I am.
I was going to say, I really don't picture that for you.
I don't know. People just were always casting me in parts like that. And I was like, what? I don't know why. This is weird. I like literally don't even know how to act this. I had to like ask a lot of questions. But anyway, that's cool. Okay. So how did you end up, because you've only now been in LA for, you said 2.5 years or something?
Yeah, just over 2.5. It'll be like 3 in September.
Yeah. I mean, congratulations, because I feel like you are doing so well here.
Thank you.
Like,
I appreciate that.
I mean, I'm sure there's like goals that you're still, you haven't met yet or whatever, but like, it seems like you've worked really hard and you've like come really far, which is cool. I want to hear about like how you got involved in Klein Collective, because their dances, your dances, with this company are so cool, and I've seen like little things that were posted, but I kind of delved into it a little bit before this interview, and I watched that main video that they have posted. The link is at the top of their Instagram for it's called Labyrinth.
Yeah, when I RIP.
Yeah, that dance is so cool. It's on YouTube. It got like 200,000 views or no, I don't even know. It's like really huge. It's really huge.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it looks amazing. Just the formations, the way you guys all dance together so well. Like, I think that's really cool with contemporary, because contemporary is sort of like feel it, do you within the moves, you know, but like you guys have a way of doing it that's so clean. And to see really clean contemporary that's like mind blowing, and it just looks so good. So I wanted to hear more about like how you got involved with that and what that's been like.
Yeah, absolutely. I started dancing with Erica once I moved out here, honestly. So I didn't know her prior to coming out here, but I had taken some of her classes, and we were just kind of in like the same crowds where she would take a lot of the classes that I would take, so I'd like see her around. And then eventually she had reached out to me and a couple of my friends to see if we wanted to do like a smaller project. So she's always creating. She is such an artist herself, where she is always very methodical and thoughtful with her projects. And that's what I really like about her, because the way that she goes about planning for things and choreographing and casting is all so not like mathematical, but it is mathematical. That's why I like the way that she choreographs and creates, because it makes sense. And so we just had gotten along really, really well, and she had asked me to be on a couple of her concept videos, and I had really enjoyed that, and I had done some like different sessions with her and skeleton crews, and so I just been taking her classes a lot, have been dancing with her for a while, and then I saw that she was opening up her own company, and I was like, that's amazing. I'm so excited about that. So she had opened up submissions, and I applied for it, and obviously we had been dancing together for at least a year at that point, probably like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And so she had kind of known how I got to be in like a work setting and in a rehearsal setting, and that's pretty much it. I just like applied and I got accepted.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, because it's kind of a newer company.
Yeah, we started in January, and she has taken it by a storm, because
only in January.
Yeah.
It looks like you guys have been dancing together for like so long.
No. So a lot of the people on the company I hadn't danced with before, because a lot of the people I had danced with before, or I had danced with in classes. But I feel like she pulled a lot of different dancers from a lot of different realms, where some people are a little bit more like industry, and some people are more concert, and some people are a little bit of both, you know what I mean? But everybody who's on that company is just very versatile. Like, they can do a mean jazz funk combo, and they could do like a killer contemporary combo, and like they're incredibly technical, but also they have like great quality of movement. So she did a very good job of like finding people and matching them, but we kept it very low key. We were rehearsing for a while in January, and then we released that concept video, and then she brought some people to do a show in Canada, which was really, really cool. I think that there were like 8 of them that went to Canada, and then there were probably like 12 of us that did LA Fashion Week, and she's just been creating like other like mini concept videos and things like that. So it's really cool, and it's really exciting to see how much she's done in such a short period of time, and how much she's like already planning on doing.
Wow. I can't even believe that. That is just in that short of time. Oh my gosh.
I kind of can't believe it too, because it feels like it's been so much longer, but it really has only been, it's only been since January.
Wow.
That's when we started rehearsing.
Wow, that's amazing. That's so cool. I'm excited to like keep following that and see like what all you guys do and where you take it. That's going to be so cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is such a good mix, and there's so many people from like what I saw, and I'm like, wow, how do all of these people dance so good together? Like, it's just amazing. I just love it. So that's really cool. What other things have you been doing? You really haven't. Have you had to have any jobs that are outside of dance and outside of like physical? I know you did like personal training and stuff.
Yeah, I honestly, no, because I was a personal trainer for a while. So I personal trained, and I worked at Equinox from probably like at least like 10 months or something like that. But then it was hard just because I did start to book some more dance jobs. So then I was very fortunate. I was very grateful, but they wanted me to work a little bit more full time, and I just like couldn't give them that in my schedule, unfortunately. I did really like working there. I loved my friends. I loved my clients. It was a good workplace. It just wasn't a good fit because I have dance as a full-time job. Right. So I was like exhausted, and I was getting up at like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. to go do my personal training, and then I'd be taking classes until like 11
Oh
p.m.
my
or something.
gosh,
Like,
that's
I was
crazy.
just constantly tired, so it was a lot. And then I took a little break from the fitness industry, and then I went back and was working at a trampoline fitness studio, which is super random.
Trampoline fitness, where's that?
Yeah, it's called LEK Fit. So I was working there for a little
Wow.
while, but then it was the same thing. It was just like really hard because I was working there a lot and I really liked it and I liked the clients and it was like a fun place to work at, but it was just hard for me to like manage the schedule.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, like I stopped working that and I was just teaching there like a few days a week, something like that. You know what I mean? But I really liked it and I love group fitness training. I love personal training. But other than that, that was probably like, I think it's been like 9 months or 10 months since I've had that job. And since then, I've only been teaching dance or dancing for my jobs.
Yeah, because it seems like you're booking a lot of gigs from what I've seen. You are,
Yeah,
right?
I would say so. I'm really hard on myself for if I'm not booking like every 5 seconds, I'm like, oh my gosh, like Angel is so far behind. Like, what is she doing? But I would say I'm very, very fortunate and I've been very lucky to have the opportunities that I've had.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so cool. I just love all of that. I love
Yeah.
hearing all that. So you talked about your goals when you first moved here. So now, like, what are some of your goals now? Now that I mean, for some people, the stuff you're already doing is like, wow, that would be my goal, you know? But
Yeah.
like, obviously, nobody comes to a place in their life where they're like, made it. I mean, I think everybody, that's like when I used to take acting classes, they used to say the thing that makes you a real person when you're acting is because you want something or there's some kind of goal.
Yeah, it's a desire.
Like everybody has that. So wherever you're at or however many other people might think you've made it, you yourself probably have another goal, you know? So like
Yeah.
what right now would you say your goals are?
Yeah, that's also the sucky thing too, is that like you're always gonna want something more.
I
Which
know, kind of
it
wish you
makes-
didn't.
Yeah, you kind of wish you did it. Like I kind of wish I would just like
Can I just
settle and be
relax?
like, this is good. Yeah, like I've met some people like that where they're like, yeah, this is good. I'm like, that's crazy. I don't think I've ever felt that a day in my life, and I wish I would just be like, yeah, I'll
I
settle.
mean, maybe you will have like a version of that at some point.
I really hope so. I'm gonna learn how to mature into that, but as of right now, she stays hungry. But sorry, that was a side note. But just going back to your question, I think my current goals right now are really to perform live and to perform with artists. Yeah.
Okay.
And I would love to perform with somebody kind of like girly pop, like sassy, a little bit campy, like Sabrina Carpenter, Olivia Rodrigo would be a huge one. I would love to perform with Chappell Roan. That would be amazing.
That would be so cool.
She doesn't have dancers right now, but if she did, that would be incredible.
Does she see your stuff when you post it?
I don't know if she does. I feel like she's pretty big because she it's crazy too because we were talking about how earlier she wrote that song after she got dropped by her record label. She got picked up by another one and she released this whole album and she was on tour with Olivia. So it's like
oh my gosh.
she's doing
I didn't
incredible.
realize that. Okay,
yeah,
that's
no,
amazing.
she's amazing now. But yeah, so I don't think she has the time or her team maybe has seen it. TBD. But yeah, I think now I want to do a lot more commercial things. I've also been working a lot on a skeleton crew for like a K-pop group.
And can you explain, I know a little bit about what a skeleton crew is,
absolutely.
but can you kind of explain like what that looks like to be on a skeleton crew?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's basically like you're a stand-in dancer for either the dancers or the artists that they are going to create for, because as wonderful as it would be, we don't always have the time to get all the actual dancers in the room. Or say you're choreographing something in New York, but you're based in LA. So before you go to New York and actually do the job, you're like, hey, I'm going to workshop this so that way at least I can like come into the rehearsal very prepped and with some ideas like fleshed out. Especially when you have like a lot of dancers. It's a nice way of just being able to set yourself up for success. So for skeleton crews, a lot of times it's just the creative process where you're learning like parts of the song, maybe you're learning like the whole song, and then you're standing in for either the dancers that you're using or the singers. So in this case, for the K-pop bands, we were standing in for the singers. So that was pretty interesting because it was like I'm pretending to be a singer and then I'm also like doing these dance moves. But K-pop is really fun because I think I naturally gear more towards cleanliness. I've been told a lot that I'm like a pretty clean dancer, which I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Which is funny because sometimes that's like an insult in LA where people will be like, oh, you're so clean or like something
That's
like that.
funny. Yeah. I wouldn't think of it like that, but I see what you're saying.
It's not like an insult, but you know what I mean? It's kind of a dig where it's like you need to be messier or something like that. But I feel like K-pop is very naturally clean. Or not naturally. It's just stylistically it is very clean.
Yeah.
So I mesh well with that.
Yeah.
But anyways, a skeleton crew is just like they're creating the dance on you and then videotaping it so that way they have it for later.
And then do you Is it also like if anyone gets like injured or something, can you replace anybody, or it's not really for that?
It's not really for that. It's mainly more so for me, like, because again, I'm still in my earlier stages of my dance career. For me, it's a really good opportunity to get in front of choreographers that I can't always take class with or that I haven't necessarily worked with, right? Because when people see you in a rehearsal setting, it's a little different than a class setting. You know what I mean? Because somebody could kill it in class, but then they're either like a pain in the butt to work with in rehearsal, or they
Yeah.
like don't actually pick up choreography well, or they don't take notes well, or things like that. So I think one of my strengths is like I do really well in rehearsal settings. So
Okay.
I think for me, being in like a skeleton crew or a workshop benefits me a lot because then people can be like, oh, okay, like Angel has her stuff together. Like, let's keep going.
Yeah. And so for your goals of going on tour with someone or dancing live with an artist, like, is it, is your, I mean, maybe you don't know, but is your path to that just to keep doing what you're doing and see if an opportunity arises? Or is there like a more specific path to that? I guess doing the skeleton cruise and stuff is part of the path, but
Yeah, I think it's so hard because it's so different for everyone, if that makes
yeah.
sense. So I think for me, what I've been trying to do, especially in this last year, is give myself the opportunity to practice performing on stage. You know what I mean? And put myself in those types of settings. So while some people just have the incredible opportunity of booking their dream job, you know what I mean? And like working with these major artists, sometimes for me, it's like working with smaller artists. So I've worked with
Hmm.
some like smaller artists, or not even smaller artists, but just artists from other countries, you know what I mean? Where they may
Yeah,
be
I
like
saw
super
the one
popular.
you did. Okay, I literally wrote this down because I
Yeah.
saw the one you did in like Mexico City, and
Yeah.
you were speaking Spanish.
Yeah, girl. I
Can
was
you
speaking
speak
Spanish.
Spanish? Like totally?
Not well, no.
Okay.
I felt
You were
so
counting
bad.
in Spanish in the video.
Yes,
But
okay, so my thing is I took like AP Spanish in high school. I went
okay.
all the way through that, and then I
Okay.
took a semester of medical Spanish in college,
Oh
and I'm
wow,
technically
medical
technically
Spanish.
I am proficient. And I definitely know a lot more than I think I do. And when I was in Mexico, I could understand a lot. I just will say that I probably have the grammar of like fourth grader. So those poor dancers, I was trying my best because they spoke mainly Spanish. Like a couple of them spoke a little bit of English, but I'm like, if I know Spanish, I should really try to like speak to them in their language.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like if
that's
I
awesome.
didn't know it, that's a little bit different, but I'm like, I do have enough like training and education where I should push for that.
Yeah.
So,
That's
mhm.
really cool. Because I hadn't
Thanks.
seen that video before today actually, and I was like, "Oh, look at her.
Yeah,
Wait."
yeah, my
That's
Spanish accent is
cool.
terrible.
I mean, I thought it looked really cool, but that's
Thank you.
funny to
I
hear
appreciate
like
that.
hear a little bit of the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Um, cool. Well, I love it just gosh, oh my gosh, it's actually almost an hour right
Oh
now.
my
And like
gosh.
time just goes by so
It
fast.
does.
I feel like we're kind of caught up on like your dance journey mostly.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself just dancing for the rest of your life? Or I mean, obviously you don't know, but just like off the top of your head, are you like, do you see yourself maybe like one day being like, now I want to be a nurse again? Or like
No, it is crazy.
have you ever gotten tired? Like, have you ever had moments in your life of just like, I kind of want to break from this, like
Oh
ever?
my gosh, yeah. Oh my god. Like
You're
recently, like that was like the whole like
like
California.
yesterday,
Yeah,
actually.
like yesterday. Like literally yesterday. No, I go through waves of it where I'm sure that everybody has this where it'll be like one day I'm like, I love life. I love California. This is the best thing that has ever happened to me. And then the next second I'm like crying on FaceTime with my mom where I'm like, I'm gonna move home. Like I'm literally buying my plane ticket right now. And that's just me being dramatic too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I do get sick of it. I've been trying to remind myself to live a little bit more and step outside because also, like, if I don't step outside the studio, I don't have any inspiration to pull from, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I do get tired of it, but I don't think that I'll go back to a career like nursing as of right
Yeah.
now. I think that in the future, my goals are to eventually be a choreographer or a director. So right now I'm really pushing the performance, but I'm also obviously teaching a lot. I'm choreographing, and that's kind of like to set up my building blocks for when I would want to transition to that, if that makes sense. So eventually I want to choreograph for artists. I think that that would be really interesting, or just like choreograph for movies, things like that. Obviously those are like big things
No,
that
that's
everybody wants to
amazing.
do,
Yeah.
but that would be a huge thing. And then I do think it would be really cool to be a creative director of sorts because a lot of choreographers, after a certain point, they've worked a lot with different actors and musicians and dancers that they kind of want a little bit more say in the creative process and
Yeah.
how the end results look rather than just the movement. So I could see myself going in that direction as well.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
so cool. I love I'm so excited. Now I'm even more excited to be like, oh, let's see where
Oh my
Angel's
gosh.
life takes her. But I
Thank
love your
you.
honesty too of just like, because some people are just like, no, I've never wanted to do anything else, which may be that may be their honest thought. But I
Yeah.
think more people could probably relate to like, yeah, there's days that, I mean, I think in every career, there's probably days where you're like,
Oh
I
my
kind of wish I
gosh,
was doing
yeah.
something completely different, or I was just somewhere else, or I was telling one of my podcast interviewees recently,
Yeah.
like, I was like, sometimes like I dream about just like being somewhere where like nobody's pursuing anything, you know, where
Yeah.
you're just like, we're all just like doing our jobs and then we just come home or like do something
Yeah.
fun. Like I barely ever had a time in my life where I wasn't like doing a job and pursuing something
Oh,
or like,
absolutely.
and I feel like that's very LA for
Yeah.
most people. And so sometimes I wonder like what it's like for like regular people.
No, but
You
it's
know?
so funny because I will go home and like I know I can't do a regular job. You know what I mean? Because obviously
Yeah.
it's like I'm here for a reason. I love it. I'm
Yeah.
crazy. Like I'm gonna
Yeah.
go after my dreams. But every time I go back to Minnesota, because like that's kind of the double-edged sword is that I will like miss home so much. I'll miss my family, and then I go back and I'm like, oh God, but this isn't what I want either. So I'm like, it's not that their lives are bad. Like
Yeah.
they have wonderful lives. I have friends who are like so stable. They've got houses. They've got husband, wives, kids. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
whatever. But I realize I'm like, oh, I can't live this life. And it's not a
Yeah.
bad thing. It's just
Yeah.
this isn't what my calling is.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? So I definitely have moments where I'm like, yeah, I need to get out of LA. I can't do this. Or like I have like weird fantasies where you're like, oh, like I'm just gonna move to someplace random. And you're like, I'm gonna move to New Mexico and just like start over again.
Yeah.
Or I think for me it's like I would move to like the middle of nowhere and like be on a ranch. And I
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
last 2 seconds because
Yeah.
I would just start talking to myself.
And I
But
know. I feel the same. It's like sometimes I have little blips of like a dream about that, and then, but yeah, when I visit home or something, I'm like, this is nice for a little bit.
yes, it's
I
a
like
nice
to have a
escape.
rest,
It's a nice
but
rest.
then I'm like, okay, let's get back to it.
yeah,
Like,
I like the crazy.
yeah,
I really like the crazy
Yeah.
of LA. That's why I've been here for, I mean, it's not a long time, but that's why I like it so far.
well, some people don't even last that long. I mean, there's
Yeah.
people that come and they leave after 6 months or a year,
Yeah, and I understand it. It's a
Yeah.
lot. LA is so overwhelming. It is such a cluster F. I'm not gonna swear
Yeah.
because we're gonna keep it going, but it's such a cluster F.
Yeah,
It's
and
such a
like
mess.
I've like grown to love LA, and I didn't in the
Yeah.
beginning. Like I moved for acting, but I'd never really loved LA. I was just
Yeah.
like, well, this is where I have to go for this.
Mhm.
But it's over time. It's like it doesn't even matter about acting. Like I just I love this place, and when I go back
And the
to where I grew
people.
up, yeah, I love like all being around artists, being around people that are pursuing stuff. Like it's nice to be around people that are, you know, have a stable job. It's kind of nice to see that life and like be like,
Yeah.
oh, this is cool.
Mhm.
But then quickly I'm like, that's not really my personality. So it's nice to
Exactly.
get back to like, oh, what are you doing? What's your pursuit? What are you like? I think
Yeah.
it's interesting, like all these creative artists here, and just like the fact that it is kind of a mess here. Like going back to where I grew up, it's like I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and
Mm.
lots of townhouses I lived in and stuff. It's very like everything's clean and looks the
Yes.
same. And
Copy
I actually
paste.
used to love that. I'd never
Mhm.
had a desire to get away from that.
Yeah.
Still, sometimes when I see it, I'm like, wow,
Wait,
it's kinda
remind
nice.
me, where are you from in Chicago?
So I actually grew up in Schaumburg.
Okay.
But then I kind of ended up living in like the Naperville-ish area.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
My cousins, because I have a lot of cousins who live in the suburbs.
Okay.
So they lived in Joliet for a little bit,
Okay.
and then they were in Lockport, and
Okay.
then some of them are in Bolingbrook. And I have another friend that I think is in Elmhurst or
Oh
something
yeah,
like that.
that's
Yeah.
pretty close to like
Mhm.
where my parents
Yeah, I was
are.
gonna say that's a lot closer to like where you live,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a nice area.
super
that's
nice.
That's the same thing. I go back to Minnesota, and my favorite joke to make is, oh God, I just love the architecture here. I love the difference in architecture. I love how clean this is. I love how like it just really brings out the culture, and it's like the same basic house, like copy pasted in like 5 shades of brown. I'm like, I just love it. It is so individualistic here.
It's like you're being sarcastic, but literally, I used to like that.
No, I loved it too. I was like,
loved
I had
it.
dreams
I'm like,
of
this is
having
where
that
I'm
house.
I want to live in like a perfect clean place like this.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like
And
where I talk about my lawn. I was so excited to talk about my lawn when I got older.
It's really funny. I like it took me years out here of being out here to go back and be like, I'm actually this is weird for me that everything
Yeah.
like I'm like no like LA feels like home. I like
Yeah.
I don't
well, you
really
were out
s-
here a lot longer.
I
too,
have
so
been
that
out
makes
here a lot
sense.
longer, and I don't really see myself ever leaving unless some big thing is calling me. But I don't see
Yeah.
myself leaving just because I'm like, oh, I'm sick of LA. I don't
Yeah.
really see that happening. I think I just want to keep staying here and like seeing how things develop and like kind of where God takes me in my life, like here.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I wanted to ask you one more thing.
Yeah, girl. Ask away.
Because I feel like we're pretty caught up in your dance journey, but
Uh-huh.
How did you get into social media?
Oh my
Were
gosh.
you always into it since you were like, I mean, well, not like, gosh, I don't remember when things got big, but
Yeah. Well, you were off the
what
grid
got?
for like
Well,
10
I was
years.
also off the
That's
grid.
crazy. I'm still not over that.
It's
Tracy.
like a whole like literally, I could like talk about it for like an hour. About, like,
I
how
want
that happened.
on a separate like day. I do want to like sit down and have you tell me all about your experience of not being on social media and what that was like. That is so bizarre to me. But I love that. Like I feel like that was so healing, but also so crazy once you came back.
It literally was like, I was obsessed with Facebook back then, and I was on it constantly, posting all the time. Like, that was like my life, and I thought it was so funny. I love to be funny. So, not in the exact same way as you, but I was always posting,
like, it's the same.
I was always posting funny stuff and quotes and just like, the status updates was just, I constantly had like stuff. I was like witty things and like, and then, when I was thinking about getting off of it, which was like a whole long story, but I was so stressed about it. I was like, how am I I'm going to go crazy if I'm not on it? But I really felt like I was supposed to get off of it for a bunch of reasons we don't talk about right now. But I was like, and then I like, when I finally did it, I mean, it was like months of like going back and forth about it. There was like a couple times when I like deleted it and went back on, but when I finally like really did it, I never missed it for one day of 10 years.
I love that.
I never missed it.
That's so healing.
It was weird. I was shocked that I did. I was shocked how much I actually felt like my anxiety went away.
Oh, I bet. Oh my gosh. Sometimes I'm like, I want to throw my phone out the canyon. I'm not gonna lie. I'll be on a hike and I'm like, I could just toss this. I don't have to look at it.
It was like crazy how freeing it was, and it was easier to talk to people because I wasn't like, oh, I don't know if you saw it online already, but like everything felt fresh and like new, and like I absolutely loved it. So actually, when I started feeling like I was supposed to get back on it, which is another story, I had fear about that. I was like, oh, I've been really good without it. I really don't think that I didn't really want it, but I felt like there was something new happening and I was supposed to get back on it. And so now I'm just like trying to get crazy on it now, and I'm enjoying it. Like, honestly, I love it. But
you got 10 years to catch up
on. I'm back,
amazing.
But
yeah, to go back to your question of how I got on social media, I like was at a weird age where I'm like Gen Z, but I'm not Gen Z, you know what I mean? Because I'm right on the cusp. I'm 1999. Okay. Which like, I'm like, oh, I'm not a 90s baby, you know what I mean? But I'm a 90s baby. So I grew up kind of like without technology, but then I grew up with technology at the same time. So I was always using it. And then I think during COVID, I was just like, I wasn't going to be on TikTok, kind of because I didn't want to be like addicted to it or anything like that. And then I got on TikTok during COVID, and I told myself, I'm like, I'm not going to make anything. I'm just going to watch. And then obviously you start making stuff. You know what I mean? But I don't think anything really blew up until I started making stuff about competition dance. And it's so funny because I always make the joke where I'm like, God, people just want to see me be funny. They don't want to see me dance. You know what I mean? Like, which that's not true. You know what I mean? But it's just funny because it's like, they can relate to that. You know what I mean? The things that do well on social media are things that are relatable. So it was all these like niche experiences. And I think I take things very seriously. I'm very intense sometimes with like dance. So I think it was when I had like first moved to LA and I just started to see different things that were happening or had like weird memories from like dance where I'm like, that's so weird. Like, did everybody have that? And so I would like start making little posts like that. And I think the first one, like I said earlier, was when I was home because my grandma was sick. And so she was like about to pass. And I had my tumble track there. And I was living in LA at the time. And I'm like, I don't have this tumble track. And I was just like making light of like a dark situation. So I started like posting little TikToks and they just started like blowing up. Like they just started getting a bunch of views. I started getting a bunch of follows and like people just kept on liking them. So I was like, oh, if people think I'm funny, maybe I should post more, if that makes sense. Like, I've always thought I was funny, but I'm like, if other people think I'm funny, that's great. I love that. So I started posting more, and it kind of allowed me to express myself in a different way that wasn't dance, if that makes sense. It gave me a voice, kind of like what I was saying earlier. It's like, dance, you don't always really get to have a voice that's audible, obviously. It's very visual. It's very much a story, but you don't always get to speak what you're thinking. So it was funny to kind of poke fun at things that like are actually kind of serious, you know what I mean? And have another aspect of myself be shown online. So that's kind of where I just started posting that. And then I honestly just recently started posting on Instagram for my reels. Yeah, because somebody had used my audio and it was Costumaire, actually. Yeah, and they're amazing. They're so funny.
They're great. I took their class, actually.
Really?
They did like a special class at Team Elite not that long ago, and I took it. It was really fun.
Yes, I love that. They're so funny. So they had used my sound. I was like, wait, that's cool. I'm like, if they think I'm funny, maybe I should like post. So it was never really on my own accord, but I think as a kid I had always wanted to be like a YouTuber or something like that. Like
Yeah.
my friend and I would always make like these silly little like YouTube videos, and hers actually did really well, but my parents wouldn't let me post mine because they're like, you're 12 and we don't want you to get abducted. So that's fair.
Well, yeah.
Fair. And I didn't get abducted, so they were right.
They were right because you didn't get abducted.
I didn't get abducted. They were right. Like half the things that I remember thinking, like I'm like, oh God, like why my parents let me do that? And I'm like, oh, they were actually right about that. That checks out. So
That's so
yeah,
funny.
that's how I got into social media. And since then, I've kind of just been posting and doing random stuff. I try not to push it too much. Just because if I don't feel like it, I don't feel like it makes
Yeah.
good content. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I don't want to just like be a like content cow, if that makes sense, and just like keep
Yeah.
producing and like post bad content. So if I have something and I'm feeling inspired, I try to post it. But if I don't, then I try
Yeah.
not to.
That's how I feel about social media too. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, I'm not doing anything like that, but I do post a lot, and I really never post unless I'm like wanting to.
Yeah.
I'm not like, oh, I need to post all the time because this is what I'm
Exactly.
trying to do now. Like,
Yeah.
that's never like a thought. I'm just like, I just like it. I like
Yeah.
forgot how much I liked it because I used to love it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to post this. So it's like it brings me joy, and it also I have people tell me that they like it, and so I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, if it's bringing, even if it's just a handful of people, in my case, in this point, but like, if it's bringing them joy and it's bringing me joy, like,
Well, and that was
whatever.
the thing too, is I've had friends tell me, they're like, oh my gosh, like your video was so funny. Like I love that. It just brought me back to when I was a comp dancer. Even my friends who don't necessarily dance anymore, they're like, I remember having that happen to me when I was like 4 years old or something like that. So it's interesting because again, like social media can be so dark, it can be so toxic and have so many negative components to it, but at the same time it brings people together too, where it's like a really unique like shared experiences and
Yeah.
things like that I don't know, just cultivates a weird sense of community, even though it's
Yeah.
like you've never met people. I mean, think about it. Like we didn't meet each other until
Yeah.
we started connecting on social media, and then that's how we started this whole conversation.
Yeah, some of it turns into real friendships or
Yeah,
relationships, and
absolutely.
sometimes it's just a fun online thing. Like I have some dancer friends in like other cities that we talk
Yeah.
now, and they like listen to my podcast, but like I've never met them, but
Yeah.
like it still feels like a friendship or like a pen pal
Yeah.
ship or whatever. So okay, this is really the last thing now, but with
Okay.
all of the stuff you're doing, like do you feel like you're finally into like a good rhythm of like rest and work or do you feel like you're just constantly going with like social media and dance and and like you just can't ever get a break, or do you feel like you have a rhythm?
I don't think I've ever had a good routine in my life. If I'm being so honest. No, I've been really working on this one. I've been really, really working on this. Probably since forever, but specifically since Thanksgiving, because I went home for Thanksgiving to visit my family, obviously, for the holiday. And my dad was telling me, he's like, okay, like, make sure that you enjoy California while you're living in California,
Yeah.
because you never know, like, where life is going to take you. And, like, what if you end up moving home or moving someplace else, and then, like, you feel like you missed out on California. So I've been trying to find a good work-life balance. I've never been good at that, literally, again, ever in my entire life. But I think I'm starting to navigate what I need, you know what I mean? And just because my schedule changes on like such a day-to-day basis, I always joke with the kids that I teach where I'm like, I don't know what's happening today or tomorrow. I've straight up had days where I will be teaching and I'll get a call and then all of a sudden I'll have to leave to go to a rehearsal. And I'm like, okay, I'll see you guys next week, maybe, or I'll find out at like 11 p.m. that I'm working for 8 hours the next day.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it changes so much, which can be hard. But I think I've learned how to bounce back, if that makes sense, and like
Yeah.
mentally reset. So if I go for like a long stretch where I'm working, then I try to find days where I can just rest, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Or I do my quote unquote human things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to the DMV today, or I'm gonna go get my oil changed, or I'm gonna just lay in bed. I did that the other day. That was great.
Wow.
Yeah, or what did I was joking with. I went to a sports bar the other day.
Wow.
That was great. I went to a sports bar with my roommate and we watched like a basketball game. I never do that. That was crazy. I'm like, this is a human experience right here. But
so
yeah,
funny.
I definitely have gotten better at it. I think I try not to like I work out a lot, but I try not to work out as much. I try to like if I have like a heavy dance day, then I'm not going to work out because I don't want to like kill my body.
Yeah.
Or if I know that I am going to have like a long night or something like that, I might not like get up early. So different things like that. And then I just try to make sure that I'm like finding ways to eat throughout the day because that can be hectic with my schedule.
Yeah.
So it's just like making sure that like if like what you were talking about yesterday, you had 4 classes, I think,
Yeah,
something like
and I was
that.
like bringing food in the car, but like,
Yeah.
how do you do that? Because
Yeah.
I'm struggling with like getting enough like protein, even in like the amount that
Yeah.
I do, which is not even as much as you do. But
No, but I get that. I mean, like you're honestly taking so much class. 4 classes is a lot. Let's not tone that down. That is a lot. I haven't done that in probably like months where it's just like 4 back-to-back classes. But I pack a lot of snacks. I definitely will. I drink a lot of coffee. That's probably not like a good thing
gosh,
to
I
admit.
can't even have coffee.
Really?
I don't ever drink caffeine or coffee.
That's why if you see me in classes, like that's why that combo was crazy the other day, because I had like,
You're very caffeinated.
yeah, I had 4 like caffeinated drinks that day, and I didn't have my glasses on, so I was choreographing without my glasses. I'm like, I don't even know what this looks like, but it feels great, so I just went crazy on it. But
I think it worked out. So.
Yeah, it worked out. But I'll try to get things that I know are like high protein that are easy to go. Like I always get like Greek yogurt cups that have like protein, or I have like specific protein bars that I like. I love just like fruit, like apples and bananas. Those are like easy ones. Or I'll try to look for crossovers, if that makes sense, like vegetables that are high in protein, things like that.
Wait, what's a vegetable that's high in protein?
I feel like, is kale high in protein, or am I making
maybe.
that up?
No, it
I might be making that up.
I don't know. I literally can't digest kale. I like, me and my old roommate used to say that it was like made for dinosaurs to eat, because like it's so intense.
It's so intense. No, you have to.
It probably does have protein.
You have to like blend
idea.
it up. Like if you blend it up in like a smoothie. I love a smoothie. I love a smoothie bowl. Just things like that. And I've also just had like weird like things that I've come to find along the way, where if I'm like, oh, I eat like little meals throughout the day, that works better for me. But I also have some friends where they're like, okay, I'm just gonna eat like 2 big meals a day, or like 3 big meals. So it really is like so personal to you.
Or you like eat little snacks all day, and then when you finally get home at night, you just like eat everything.
Yeah, I do that too
To
sometimes. No, I do that too sometimes. But yeah, it's just making sure that I survive. I think the mental reset is a huge thing, where I'm like, okay, I know that like my next off day is in like 3 days, so I just have to power through the next 2 days. Things like that.
Wow.
That was me for a while, because I was in Mexico, and then I was teaching a lot in Minnesota, and so it was like I went to Mammoth for like fun, and then I went to Mexico, and then I went to Minnesota, and then I came back here, and I had like skeleton crew and stuff. So I was like, there's just too much happening. I'm just gonna keep powering through until the next day.
Well, it seems like you still have like, you're not losing your joy for dance anytime soon. So it's helping your drive, and I'm sure it will last many, many years, if not your whole life. So that's exciting. And I don't know, I see your vision. I feel like that is going to happen. I think it seems like you're on your way, and like you're such a good choreographer. You're really great like at directing things and teaching. So, and you're an amazing performer. So I feel like I'm going to pray and hope that like tons of doors open for you, continue to open for you, because they already are. But
thank you so much, Tracy. I really appreciate it.
It's so nice to just get to chat with you more and like hear your story. And, you know, we'll have to do an episode in the future where you ask me questions about when I was off social media.
I really need to know, Tracy. I don't think you understand. I was like, I know this is an interview, but I need to ask her questions. Like, this is my interview now.
So funny. But anyway, thanks for joining me on the podcast, Angel. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, and like and comment and subscribe, and mostly check out Angel's videos, her dance videos and her funny videos, because they're both amazing. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Journey.